Portraits of Decay.
Yeah,
It's out.
it's out. October 21st it came out. It was unleashed
Yeah.
in the world.
Unleashed in the world. Is this your first?
This is my first, yeah, first that
Okay.
ever published. I've written novels that are, never going to see the light.
Practice novels, you
Yeah,
call them. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But is it how's I've seen you've been doing some events. How have the events been going?
They've been pretty good. I just did a reading event on Wednesday, and it was kind of awesome. The bookstore here in Chicago called Bookseller, they had a bakery make cookies
That's
in that were literally looked like the cover of my book, and they actually tasted good too. So it was kind of like a double plus. You know what I mean? Because at first I'm like, well, they look cool. How do they taste? But they went very quickly, so people like gobbled those up
that's good.
real
That's
fast.
good.
So
I mean, if honestly, cookies make everything like I could be the only one there. Oh, there's cookies.
yeah,
I'm fine. I'm good. I got cookies. Um, I really, really like the book.
thank you.
Um, it really made me think. And I don't even about things that I'm not sure. I don't know. When did you write this? That's, I guess, my first question. When was this actually written?
So it was written over about 3 years time. So I finished it about 2 years ago at this point because I did about a year of querying before Ruidon picked it up, and I had a couple other indies that were looking at it at that time. But I started probably writing it in right around 2020 or 2021. I think it was just right after the pandemic.
Okay.
Um, and I had spent a lot of time in New Orleans because I used to work on a train actually going from Chicago to New Orleans. So from the years about 2013 to about almost 2016. And so I knew I wanted to write a New Orleans novel at some point. And it originally started off as just a short story. Actually, the first scene I wrote is the chapter where Gemma goes to the witch. Not
Okay.
the way
Yeah.
of saying that.
Yeah.
Um, and I didn't really know what to do with it at that point. And then I kind of came up with the art storyline and the kind of love triangle that went with it. And that's really where it kind of pushed me into novel territory.
I mean, I love I don't know. I don't know if I'm exclusive about. I feel like this is a common thing amongst writers, but writers love stories about writing, and writers love stories about art. They love the meta creation aspect because we all deal in it so often, and I'm no exception. I love stories that are interweaving the creation aspect of things intermixed with very gruesome, very upsetting. That's the I was it feels I think the there's a juxtaposition where like it starts off as like, oh, you're in an art gallery and it's like very nice,
Mm-hmm.
and then you suddenly it's like that uh de-evolution, the kind of descent into ugly and darkness and grossness, which I love, of course. um so you wrote it in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so much here about art and the mindset about creating art, and different people feeling entitled, I feel like, to art, to the idea of like, oh, I have, because I can't do it, I suddenly need to feel entitled that I had some part in it even though I didn't.
Yeah.
uh but there's also, you know, I was there any AI stuff in this? Was that on the horizon at all in you when you wrote this? Because I initially, when I read this, I was like, and I'm going to try to avoid spoilers, which I always do, but Gemma feels at a certain point, she feels like those people who are typing prompts in AI programs, into Chat GPT, and it pumps out some piece of art, and they call themselves an artist.
I didn't initially go in with that kind of idea, but I can totally see where you're coming from. But there is a point where I think, I was also a musician at point, like I'm still a musician, I should say. I don't play in a band right now, but I did for many years. And you always kind of have what we would call like hangers-ons. There's always those people who I'm sure as a writer that you are, you've had the people that comes up to you and tells you the idea and wants you to write their book for you, or
We've all experienced it. Everyone is like, the moment you tell someone you're a writer, oh, I've got this great idea. I'm like, well, you write it then. I got plenty of ideas, man. I don't need more of them.
right, and then they're like, well, I don't have time, and they have every excuse in the world why they can't write it.
No one has time.
Right, exactly. So Gemma kind of came from that idea of these people who almost kind of suck the life out of the art in a certain way because they just want to take something that I think as an artist, our creativity is special to us. It's something, it's our way of expressing our emotions, our feelings. Um, it really came from also a conversation about me and a friend saying, like, what if you couldn't do your art? What if you couldn't write, or what if you couldn't play music, or what if you couldn't paint? Like, what would that do to you? And I was like, I think I'd rot on the inside. And
Yeah.
so I think that at certain times as an artist, there are people who make you feel like they're kind of ruining it for you in a certain sense, by just trying to grasp onto what you're doing. Which is why me, or it could be people who try to treat it as a competition, which is also kind of what Gemma does in a certain way. She's always competing to try to get this gallery, and so she looks at it a different way. And I never look at that. I look at like I want to raise everybody up. It's just not about like me pushing my work as well.
Not a zero sum game.
Yeah, exactly. So I really kind of wanted to talk about that and really show it. And I think AI has now become this easy way for people to be like, look, I wrote a book, or look, I painted a picture, but you really didn't. It was a piece of technology.
You asked a lying machine to do it,
Right.
and they did it, and the lying machine made you one that looks ugly, and it stole from a bunch of other people. It didn't
Right.
do any. You didn't do anything. It really didn't do anything.
Anything either, because it's take a lot of time. It's stealing from other people's works or stealing lines, and I'm really afraid as it gets better, what's going to happen? How are we going to be able to
I,
figure
I'm
this?
I'm not. Like, I think there's two aspects of it, and I think honestly, I just because I literally made like a little social media video about this the other day about AI slop all over social media and other authors. I see it like I don't, I'm not going to concern myself with the millions of people I don't know. But when I see other authors who are like, "Oh, I'm trying to establish myself," and I'm all I see on your page is AI created art for that about your book, or AI like pictures of you, like weird, and like I'm like, and it's just all there is. I'm like, I don't know if you know this. And maybe some people live in bubbles. They don't understand. They don't see this perspective. And so they don't know. And I'm like, I just want to, and like, if I hadn't had been thinking about this, I don't know if I would have thought about it so much about this book, because there is like, is that like, because of the way that I will not spoil specifically what happens to poor Jefferson, but the way that what happens to him, he becomes like a machine almost. Like it is like he's driven like it. And I think it was just because it's on the top of my head, but I mean, it is like the AI part of it is just becoming, just makes it easier, just makes it simpler for those types of people. The same, like these people who normally would be doing what Gemma does, where she like just attaches themselves to an artist, like a parasite, like a lamprey, and like just coasts along and pretends that like they did something when they didn't do anything.
Right.
Um,
And
when
my
it's
thing is like the joy is in the making. The joy is in the creating. Yeah, it's great to publish and it's great to see your work out there and it's great. It's wonderful to have people read it and enjoy it and talk about it. But the joy for me as a writer is the actual creation of the piece of work and taking all that time. And yeah, there's frustration and there's difficulties that come along with that. But then when you kind of overcome those difficulties, there's fun in that too. So there's the excitement is kind of creating these worlds and these characters and seeing where they go and seeing what comes of it. So I don't really understand this whole thing about look what I did when you didn't do it, because where's the pride of in any of it at that point? You didn't do anything.
well,
So
I mean, it's a hard mindset that I don't think I don't know. I don't want to just call it envy, because I feels like that's a lazy thing to say. Just like, oh, they're jealous of they don't have that thing in them that like that compels them to create. Which is like people ask. I think every writer gets the question of like, well, when did you start writing? I'm like, since I could. Like I've always written. I've always made art. I've played music. I've written. I mean, like it's always like chasing different creative pursuits because my brain has to. Like I can't not do it. So it's
right,
like, well, how long have you done? I'm like always. Like how long have you been publishing? That's a different question.
right,
Um, but there is, I think also like tying into that. and I think it's also this. I think is more textual in the book. There's no AI. I don't want to mislead people. There's no actual AI stuff in the
Well,
book. It's just me reading in a metaphor. Um, there is certainly aspects of like how capitalism affects art in the book.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
because it feels like there's very much this war um, with Gemma trying to push Jefferson even before all the bad stuff starts happening, push him to make more commercial things, make things that are going to sell.
Mhm.
Um, and that is the other aspect of, and I think I don't know, that's the thing that I attach to so strongly because there's a part of me that is even like because Gemma at first is I think pretty like you can empathize with her at times in at least in the beginning
Yeah.
before the descent. Um, but there's a part of me where I'm like really attached. I'm like, well, yeah, there is this idea of like you have to pay bills.
Mhm.
You have to sell. You have to sell, especially if it's like it is your if you're a professional, like if it's all your sole income. You there is a part, and there's a. It's not all of me. It's not even most of me, but there is a part of me. It's like, well, how is like the average reader going to react to this thing you just wrote, right?
Right.
And I really like Gemma in that. Is there all like is every is was there a each of those characters? It feels like the various cast. Like
Mhm.
it's not a big cast. It's like what 5 or 6
Five
characters.
main ones, and then
Yeah, and then you have the voodoo shop
mhm.
people who are they pop in, and the witch. But are they representing different aspects? Was there enough of that like in your head, like, oh, this is a person representing this part of capitalism or this part of art, the art scene, or is
Yes.
that in there?
So it's I mean Jefferson is supposed to be the person that wants to I think a lot of us who want to I want to be me. I want to do the art that I want to do art and I want someone who finds me as an artist and wants to lead me to success. Gemma is, as you call like the big names out there who are like we like what you do, but we want you to do this instead. You know what I mean? And you hear a lot of I've never luckily like my publisher wasn't like that at all, but you hear stories like that in publishing industry or music industry where, you know, people are doing their art and someone's like, "Yeah, we'll pay you a lot of money, but we don't want you to do what you're actually doing. We want you to do something else." And in the end they don't end up liking what they're doing or they end up not even wanting to be an artist at some point anymore. I mean, you've heard biographies or behind the musics or whatever, where people are like, yeah, I wasn't happy anymore because I wasn't being myself. I wasn't even me anymore. Um, and I think that Neva is maybe the purest out of
Yeah,
them all because she's literally not doing this. I mean, Jefferson's still kind of doing it for fame. He really wants to be known. He's really pushed to succeed in this, which is not I'm not saying that's a bad thing for people to do. I mean, all of us have that desire, and we all kind of want our name to be known. But then there's Neva who she doesn't really even care about any of that. For her, it's all about her getting her pain out and dealing with this horrible past that she has suffered. So for me, she's kind of like the purest example of the what I guess I would call the true artist in the
yeah,
sense that this is someone who has to do something because of what they've gone through, and it's their only way of kind of dealing with the pain that they've suffered. And so I think those are all kind of three different aspects. And then you kind of have Camille and Marcel. Camille is just she's your gallery owner. She's the person who is good at making money. She's good at selling things, but one of the things, and this is why I know I started around the pandemic because there's some pandemic issues, that go on
yeah,
with the galleries suffering financially through that. But she's someone who's a good at selling. She's someone who's good at doing that. And I wanted that aspect of it too because I think that's something that even though it can be looked at as dark or something we're not exactly excited about, there is people who are good at being good at making is good at capitalism. They know how to
yeah.
run the machine, and she's that one. She's that type of person. And Marcel is just your person who is you have the arrogant the arrogant
I was
artist.
he's a rogue, a little bit of a rogue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, but he's good at what he does. He's not a bad artist, but
no,
it's to the detriment of him. His personality is to the detriment of himself. He is someone who will talk bad about someone else to make himself look better. And we all know those kind of artists too, So
Yeah.
I kind of want to have all those kind of aspects of what you go through, whether it's in art galleries, whether it's in publishing, whether it's in the music industry, whether it could be even in restaurants, working. I didn't want this to be a creativity where it's just about painting. It could be anyone that's doing.
No, it reads as basically all artistic endeavor, really. I mean, it's like, and to me, Camille is also like this kind of gatekeeper aspect where
Mhm.
you have to play nice or you'll be back on the street, literally selling your art on the street.
Yeah.
And it's and she's I think that the book does a very good job of mostly keeping these characters feel, I don't know, shades of gray. Like there's not this element of, aside from Gemma becomes definitely a villain
Right.
by the like second half of the book, I would say. But I like villains. I don't like I'm a person who, like, I want my villain to be a villain. I really want them to be evil. Like I'm fine with that. I don't need them to be like, and there's plenty of other characters in the book that do have this kind of like shades of gray, like nebulous, like, oh yeah, they're not evil people. They just exist in a system, right? And then they're trying to survive the rest like everyone else. Um, I have a question for you. It's mostly a mechanical question,
Mhm.
really. Like I do love talking about art and metaphor. I could do it all day, but the shifting of perspectives in the book,
Mhm.
because we jump between the three perspective characters. I guess technically the prologue is a fourth, but it's very limited.
Very limited.
Um, what were how did you feel that out when you knew I need to switch to Gemma here? I need to switch to Jefferson here. How did you know? What keyed you in on that?
I think it was what. So I always kind of write, at least rough drafts linear in a certain
Okay.
sense. I mean, yeah, I know that like chapter 12 was like the first thing I wrote, but after that, I kind of write linear in a certain sense. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, what's the next scene and who best fits that scene to show it? And kind of once I'd figured out their voice and their backstories and their wants and their desires and where that was going to lead them, then I kind of just knew how to switch it. And I wanted to make it kind of as even as possible also. Like I was in my head was thinking like structurally, I don't want any one character to get too much more time than any of the other two. So one of the difficult things is everyone's like, who's your main character? And I think a lot of people would think Jefferson's the main character. In my head, I think all three of them are sort of the main characters.
Yeah.
This is a love triangle. So I really
Um,
wanted it to be balanced because I love the idea of having three different points of view looking at sort of the same things
yeah.
and how they have these different, you know, reactions to them or thoughts about it. But it was really finding once I had kind of found their voices, it actually wasn't as difficult um, after that. Once I had kind of, settled into who these people are, and then it was just letting the story kind of tell me where to go. And that's, I'm not a plotter at all. I'm a complete pantser. So in a sense, it was just like I finished the scene. I'm like, all right, what happens next? And then I knew would know whose POV it would be from at
It
that point.
it feels pretty tightly plotted. So it's, I usually have a good nose for that. Like I think I've talked about that on a couple episodes, but
Mhm.
like where I like the I can sometimes feel like, oh, and like sometimes I know authors, certain authors are like Stephen Graham Jones does not plot, just pantses and
Advances it, yeah.
finds his way through it. But this is, I think, a pretty tightly plotted book. Was it a messy revisions process at all, or was it pretty easy?
Quite no, it's quite all my revisions are always quite pretty messy. Like my
Okay.
drafts, like I'd be embarrassed to show anybody rough draft
Okay.
novels because for me it's the fun of it is kind of figuring out where the stories are letting I always tell people the characters speak to me. They tell me where to go.
Right.
Um, they're the ones who after yeah, I have the core of the idea. Start with a scene, but after that it's kind of letting them tell me what happens next in a certain way. And so for me it's kind of letting that happen and it can be a struggle at times because I can get stuck or I'm not quite certain what's going to happen but I don't really know any other way to write and
I think that's the thing.
I've tried to outline. I've tried it many, many times, and sometimes in later drafts, I will. Like I think with this novel, by about the third draft, I'd started doing little kind of outlines, like, okay, this needs to go here, this needs to go here. And obviously, I did switch some chapters around here and there. Like I think this won't ruin anything, but Neva goes to the mental hospital. Like I think that
Yeah.
was it was later on in the book originally in earlier drafts, and I moved it up. So because originally I think I was trying to do every other one from these
Yeah.
characters, and it just
That's
didn't work that way.
that's really hard to do.
Yeah, it didn't want to work that way. The story didn't want to be told that way. So I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. If they have two chapters in a row from a certain character, then that's what it's going to be. But in my mind, I really wanted to balance it out as much as possible. And I knew I wanted to kind of bookend it. Kind of. I mean, you have the prologue, but bookend it with with Jefferson in the beginning and Jefferson at the end.
Yeah.
Um, but other than that, yeah, it wasn't hard, but it had its own challenges. But I thought they were fun challenges in
I mean, the that's part of the deal.
the end.
That's the part of the. I mean, like when you say, "Oh, I can only write this way," I'm like, that's everyone's like, I can't imagine doing it the other way. Or like, oh, I can, but it's only to this amount. Like it's all we all find our little niches where like, oh, and we try and assign these like, oh, I'm a plotter, and I'm like, well, I am sort of. I follow it until it doesn't serve me anymore, and
Right.
then I have to find a new one. Um, but there's a lot of people I think who I have at least talked to a lot of writers who have ever only written a single perspective books. When they write a novel or even a novella or whatever, it's always a single perspective and they stick with it. And when I tell them like, oh yeah, I've written a couple of things that have my first book has like 12 perspective characters.
Wow. Now that's
It's
difficult.
I mean, I was stupid. I should have done that. I don't know why. Like I didn't know better. I was just like, oh, I'll just do this. And I'm like, oh, I mean, they get whittled down. So it's not, they don't stick around the whole time, but it
Right.
is like, why did I do this? This is stupid. This is so many. But
Yeah.
there's a
That's
lot of people who can't imagine. I'm like, well, it is. I think when you say, oh, I found their voice
mhm.
and you found their niche in the story, and you can how to differentiate between who they are and their attitude and their perspective, like that gets a lot of that work done.
I think even if you're writing a single point of view, you still have to kind of figure that out. You still have to know who your main character is and what their voice is like, and because you don't want their decisions to seem like, well, that doesn't seem like this person would make this decision
No.
situation. So you have to know who your characters are. So I think for me as a writer, that's one of the most important things when I first go into the draft is I need to figure out who my characters are. Whether they're major characters, minor characters, they all have to make decisions. They all have to, and I don't want them to be flat. So I want them to seem as real as possible. And like you were saying, yeah, Gemma's a villain, but I was glad that in the beginning you had some sympathy for her and that you did, you
I
know,
mean, I did like again. I go in. I go most of these books completely blind. I try not to read any blurbs, anything about them, so I can be surprised by characters when they do things. And I was like, oh, is this is like how bad a person is Gemma actually? And I'm like, oh no, she's pretty bad.
yeah,
She's and it's like a lot of times it is like how what do characters do when they're pushed, right? How far are they willing to go? And turns out pretty far.
yeah.
Uh, um, yeah, exactly. Everyone should go read this book. You'll get more out of this discussion if you read the book.
Yeah,
But I wholeheartedly recommend it. We can move on
okay.
to the second act.
Ooh.
Um, yeah. As a person who's listened to the podcast, you kind of know what to expect sometimes.
A little
There's
bit, but you change
yeah,
it up sometimes.
I try. But there is a curveball right off the bat, because your question from our last guests plural, which was it was my first two guest
Oh,
episode with co-editors of the Poison Soup anthology, Wendy Dalrymple and Grace Reynolds, and their question is, what? It's Poison Soup anthology. What is your favorite soup?
ooh, what is my favorite soup? Oh, you know what? To stick with almost a New Orleans type feel to it, um, if you consider gumbo soup, I would say gumbo, but if not, I would go French onion soup, which is also sort of New Orleansy in a certain way. So I love French onion soup. I love that, like especially if they melt that little thin layer of cheese on top, and they have like the croutons that are get soft, and it's a very simple soup, but I think it's so much
It's simple
like,
seeming, but it takes. I said this to them. I said, I French onion soup is also my answer.
oh,
So
it's
we're
never.
kindred spirits. I would say gumbo. I'm not going to argue with you if you really want to fight for gumbo, but I would say it's more of a stew than
Yeah,
a soup.
that's why I was saying, yeah, I don't know if I would consider that a
I
soup.
mean, and some people might go, "Well, what stew and soup are the same?" I'm like, "Nah, there is a point where a soup turns into stew. I don't know what it is. I can see it though. Like I could tell. Like, no, this is more of a stew than a soup.
I think
I
stew
don't.
is thicker in my
Yeah,
mind,
that's
meatier,
probably true.
like thicker and meatier in my mind, I think, than soup.
But I've made French onion soup and Julia Child's recipe, which she's the godmother of modern cooking, and French onion soup recipe is incredible, but it takes 5 hours because you have to caramelize onions, a
Yeah,
lot of onions.
yeah,
You're
that's
caramelizing onions and they take forever.
forever.
Um,
I used to do that. I used to work for a restaurant. We used to have to do caramelized onions for their burgers, and yeah, I know that. Like just doing like big pots of them, and you're just sitting there
I
stirring.
mean, and that's the thing. Like you can't just leave it. You have to attend to it occasionally, and it's like it is that the effort. If I ever have like a big dinner party, maybe then I'll bring out the French onion soup again.
So I would hope I'm invited to that dinner party.
If you can make it to Orlando, Florida,
I could
sure.
for a French onion soup, I could make it anywhere.
Okay. That's what a lot of people say. And then they're like, "Oh, come to Florida." I
Well,
get it.
I've been to Florida quite a few times. So.
Okay. Some people have this. I think I would call it a misunderstanding of the truth of Florida. They don't know what it is, and I'm a staunch defender of it, despite its currently many problems. Um,
I think
none of which are the
this
land
city has its own
salt.
flaws in some certain way. So,
Yeah, that's true.
and you don't get the cold winters of Chicago. So,
Oh man, uh, I lived in Edmonton for a couple years, and hey, it's cold.
yeah,
It's very cold. And Chicago, like that, and also upper Midwest is also. I had a friend who lived in Minnesota at the time when we moved to Canada, and he's like, "Oh, you live north of the wall, and I live south of the wall." And I'm
yeah,
like, in Game of Thrones terms, I'm like,
yeah,
"Yes,
exactly.
exactly." It's like, "Oh yeah, it's -25 today." I'm like, "Okay, God Almighty."
We're supposed to
Uh,
get that this week, so I'm not
oh,
looking forward
geez,
to it. Yeah.
condolences. I will ask you. I'll ask for your question at the end of this segment.
Mhm.
For the next guest. My first question is the question I try to ask everybody: who's a writer more people should be reading?
Oh man, that's such a good question because there's quite a few. One I would really say that I think is just an amazing writer is Joe Kaplan. Her first novel, it's just going to be us, I think is what it's called. I always get the name a little bit wrong. Is one of the best ghost stories I've ever read. It just shocked me in ways I never expected. And then I was luckily to she was here at a book festival in Chicago, and I got a copy of her newest book, which is called The Midnight Muse, which is coming out next year. And it's about a metal band, and the lead singer goes missing to try to find her muse, and about what happens when her bandmates go find her. And it's crazy. It goes in so many weird different directions. Not to give out any spoilers, but it was so satisfying, and I think she's just doing a great job of just putting out some really interesting horror books. But I don't even know if I consider them all just horror. I mean, she's just doing some different things. Another one's Emma E. Murray. I think her stories are so emotional. They always hit me um, in these really deep ways. Um, her short story collection, The Drowning Machine, like every story is just like a getting stabbed in the heart. It really is. It's just like, oh my god, like how did you do this to me? Um, Amanda Headley, which I think Todd Kiesling mentioned on this, is another one that's putting out amazing things. And then somebody who you had on here, Viggy Parr Hampton. I've just recently reading her work, and I'm blown away by what she's doing. So I think there's a lot of great writers out there doing amazing things. Those would be right now some of the tops that are just really captivating me with their work.
I tell people this all the time. It's literally never been a better time
No, I think it's one of the
for
best.
horror.
Yeah, I think it's one of
Ever.
the greatest times ever. Yeah, I agree completely.
It is. You can find legitimately great work all over the place.
Yeah.
like just tripping or falling over it. There's not enough time in the day to read it all. There's so much good
That's
stuff.
the thing. Like I have so many books on my bookshelf. I still like need to get to.
Oh,
And
I mean, I have, yeah, I've been reading
you
so
buy
much,
even
and I'm
more.
trying to keep up, and it's impossible. And I'm like, I still want to buy books. I still support people, and I'm like, I'll read it
Yeah.
eventually. I'll get
Really?
there.
Yeah, and I listen to audiobooks during my walk because I walk to work. So I listen to audiobooks part of the day, and then I'm reading a book at the same time. So I'm trying to do two books at one time, and I still like I need like two eyes, two extra eyes, and an extra brain for all the books I want to read.
It's like that Twilight Zone episode. It's like
Yeah,
you finally have all the
yeah,
time in the
full time.
world.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Oh, I think that is the episode that hits me the hardest because I also have terrible vision. And if I lost my glasses in the post apocalypse, I'd be like reading. I would still be reading, but the books would be here.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm not gonna. What else I got?
I'm gonna
Oh,
hope I
wait.
have the audiobooks and then my
I was gonna say maybe is Audible still working? Can I
yeah,
get
exactly.
okay? Um, what was your gateway horror media?
Oh, my gateway horror media would have been Universal Monsters. So as a child, I was fascinated with like the Wolfman and Frankenstein, and I actually have the Amazing Frankenstein here.
Oh, hey buddy, hey Frank.
Good old Frank. And my father actually bought me the old models that you had to build and paint. I
Yeah.
think I try to find one now, and they're like a quite like almost $1,000 to buy one. I wish I still had them. But we like painted them and made them. So I really got into that. And then I don't know if most people know this. I don't know if this is just a Chicago thing, but Son of Svengoolie was awesome.
I'm aware of it. I'm
Yeah,
aware of it.
he's like it's kind of like a comedy thing he does, but then he always shows like old like B horror movies, and I would just was just fascinated with it. So it was kind of a stepping stone. And then as a reading, was Edgar Allan Poe, which first captured me as a kid, and then I found Clive Barker, which I found in my best friend's mom had it on her kitchen table at one point, and it was it's I think it was like Books of Blood 4, but here it was in the States. I think they called it In the Flesh at that time.
Yeah.
This would have been in the late 80s. And I asked her if I could borrow it, and she's like, if you get your mom to okay it. And luckily, my parents were just cool, like, yeah, watch whatever you want. We don't care.
Yeah.
You deal with your own nightmares.
I was gonna say reading. How old were you when reading Clive Barker?
I think I was 10 when I first
Okay.
read that
That's
book.
about I mean, I was gonna say that's when I was starting to read
Yeah.
adult horror too. When I hit double digits. My parents were similarly like, yeah, you're smart, you're fine.
Yeah, you'll be okay.
You'll be okay. And I
Yeah.
guess they're right.
Yeah,
The
I
things
mean,
the things that messed me up were not horror fiction
no.
of, was it Clive Barker that was bothering Stephen King or Dean
No, I
Koontz
always
or
tell
whatever.
people like true crime bothers me way more than horror does. Like, I think it's because it's actually real.
Yeah. I
Like,
don't like it. I truly like I don't there's so many there's a big there's these big overlaps in people who read horror and also enjoy true crime. And I am like I don't empathize. I don't want to read about real killings. I don't want to read about real serial killers. I find them abhorrent and disgusting and like in a way that is not fascinating to me. It's just boring. Like it's just boring, gross.
well, and then
Um
I watched. I started watching the documentary The Staircase, and just was so creeped out by it and the actual images they showed. I was like, I can't do this. Like, so I was like, I'll read about it a little bit because it's interesting what happened. But I couldn't watch it. It just real shots of actual dead people is not what I want to,
no, I don't want to engage like I don't I'm of and there's I think there's been some I've read some short stories. There's one or was it a novelette? I forget. It won a Stoker 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I forget. I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was written from the POV of a woman who is a victim of one of these killers, one of these like famous killers, and,
Okay.
and it's written from her after as a ghost,
Uh,
and it's very much about this weird culture that is obsessed with these killers, but these poor victims who have been tortured and murdered and sometimes sexually assaulted and like they are afterthoughts. They are just numbers to pad out like like again, people look at it like it's baseball, like it's football, like a sport. Like, oh
yeah,
look, they killed three
just a
people and they're
stat. Here's the stats. Yeah.
I mean, you're like,
Like,
I don't. There's
really,
no, and there's nothing interesting about it to me. The interesting thing about horror novels and is the monsters metaphor, all that stuff. I don't find some disturbed person who hurt real people interesting. I just find it disgusting. I don't want, and I don't need that in my life.
and
I got plenty of that on the news.
I really find that horror novels, like the characters are so just one-sided like that, where it's just they're feasting on their obsession to murder. I mean, there's some out there, but most of the time there's real depth to characters. Even the bad ones of what they're doing, there's reason behind it or
Yeah,
reasons they don't.
exactly.
So I find that a lot more interesting than, um, someone who just kills because they're drawn to it. They're
Yeah,
obsessed with it.
they have some sort of some sociological or psychosis or whatever mental illness that drives. Like again, I'm not. No, thank you. That might alienate a good fair share of the listeners because I do know other writers who are like, yeah, I love true crime. It's all I like
Well,
listen or podcasts and stuff like that.
against
I'm
those
like,
people who like it. It's just not my thing.
no, exactly. I'm not gonna. But that's the I don't engage.
Yeah.
Do not. No, thank you. I do like there is a genre, related genre that I guess is a genre I saw it randomly because I was looking for audiobooks to listen to on a long road trip with my wife, and non-violent true crime.
Oh, I
Which
didn't know.
there's a book called The Feather Thief, which is an incredible book. Everyone should go read. I highly
I
suggest
don't
The
know,
Feather Thief.
yeah.
But it's basically like about a heist. It's like half a heist story
Yeah.
and half about basically the feather trade of like endangered birds and stuff throughout history.
That's
And
interesting.
it
Yeah.
is incredibly fascinating. I was like wrapped for it the whole time, but there's no violence in it. And then, like I think that was like if and I look for other stuff like it, and apparently it is fairly unique. But if I could, because again, most theft does it end up involving violence. I get it. The most people involved in this stuff were not violent people at all. They were kind of nerds, which is, I guess, why they figured out a way to steal stuff without having to hurt people. They're just
Well,
like, oh, we
that's even more interesting than
yeah. And the other thing, the fascinating thing about the feather thief is the reason people were stealing these very hard to find feathers from these endangered or extinct birds is for fishing lures. Fishing
Really? I
lures.
did not
Yep.
know that was a.
That is my hard sell. I'm not even going to commission for selling.
Yeah. Okay. I'm reading. Yeah. I'm
Go
putting this.
reading The Feather Thief.
Yeah. This sounds really cool.
This is one I haven't done in a while. What's a word you hate?
One I can't pronounce. Word I hate. I don't know. I mean, for writing, a word I hate is just because it slips into my writing all the time,
You're
and I
not the
have
first
to.
person to say that. There's a
Yes,
lot
I
of
have
people.
to like go through and find all the justs in my
Control F
take out.
just
Yeah, so that one,
275 response.
yeah, just finding that word just, or another one would be look. As a writer, I'm constantly like, I don't want someone to look at something. So it took me a long time to, when I realized that I don't need to say she looked at something or he looked at something, I can just say what they're looking at. So that was one that for a long time, especially as a beginning writer, I just found myself saying they were looking at things all the time or
Yeah.
staring at things. And then we were changing at like gawking at things.
Yes. Yeah. The leering. They glanced.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
So those words aren't words as a writer I'm a fan of, and I try to find ways to take them out. And I only try to use them if I necessarily have to use them. So
Sometimes people do stare at things and it's important, but
yeah,
you
but
don't want the word stare 50 times in a paragraph. It doesn't look good.
no, and I still sort of kind of slip into those modes sometimes, especially in early drafts before I'm going back and really
That's
cleaning
natural.
those.
That's
Yeah,
everybody.
but
I think that's the thing. You just go in there, you weed them out,
yeah, it's just a
you pull
struggle.
them. It is. I mean, it is annoying. I'm with that. I hate that. That's the word. That
One is too. Yep.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I use that. I use that constantly. And whenever I point it out to people who are right, they'll be writing something that's not fiction necessarily, but I see it and I just see all the that's in it. I'm like, that's You need to do another pass on that. There's too many that's. Like you don't those
Yeah,
like read it without the that. It still makes perfect sense.
yeah.
You don't need it. It's an unnecessary word. Um, what's a the original question was daily practice. So I'll just say, what is a practice
Hmm.
that helps keep your writing momentum going?
I think for me, it's always just getting down to the actual writing, sitting down, sitting in front of a computer, knowing that I have something I need to get out of my head. And I spend a lot of time thinking about my books or thinking about my short stories, whatever I'm working on at that point in time. Um, so a lot of my day, people like, what are you thinking about? I'm probably thinking of a scene, or I'm thinking, you know,
Right.
okay, where does this need to moment? So I'm always kind of driven by that, about like, and I always like thinking about where I left off in the story. So I'm like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next movement? So for me, that's kind of, I want to know. I think as excited as I hope a reader is by reading through my books, as excited as I am writing a book, because I want to know what's going to happen next. I want to know what this character is going to do or that character is going to do. So that's what drives me. It's kind of like figuring out where this story is going to go. It's like kind of like piecing a puzzle together, or um, putting, trying to figure out a mystery for me. So I almost kind of look at myself as sort of like a detective in my own writing, because I want to know where this is going to go. So that's what drives me. It's kind of like I want to get to the end. I want to find out what happens with these people. I want to find out where their journey leads. And to do that, I have to sit down and write. That's the only way I'm going to get the answers I want. That's the only way I'm going to find out where this goes. So that's what drives me. It's really just I look at characters become real to me at some point, so I want to know what happens to their lives, and I want to know what happens to them, and that's where my writing kind of comes from.
What this is probably this will be the last question. What is your favorite and least favorite thing about your own writing?
My favorite thing, I actually really enjoy scenery in a certain sense, and making scenery character, um, and how to figure out how to do that and make it real. So I spend a lot of time not only going to the places, because I usually write about real places. It's very rare that I make up my own setting. It's kind of my reason. They're like, I want to go travel this place, so I'm going to write a story about it. Um, so for me, I think I really kind of enjoy doing sort of the research, even like going through like a Google map and finding like, oh, this is like a cool little road, or this is like a
Yeah.
um, an interesting place that only the locals would know about, or and then actually going and seeing it, in real life, and breathing in the air and getting the smells and the feelings and the senses. Like I love that kind of stuff. So for me, that's one of my favorite things. I really want people, specifically with this book, if you've never been in New Orleans, I want you to want to go to New Orleans. Or if you've been in New Orleans, it's like, yeah, this is how I felt. Or if you live in New Orleans, you're like, yeah, this is home. So for me, that's really very important to me, and something I love to do, and it's something I think that I do fairly well, and at least people have told me I do fairly well in my writing. Um, as far as what struggles, just prose in general, I think are my struggle. I find myself more workmanlike than anything in my prose. I don't consider myself a very poetic writer. Um, I don't use flowery language because I'm not good at it. Um,
I don't
you
know
know,
about that.
I mean, I'm not
There's
against.
there's there's some flowery stuff in here. And then not and then I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't know. It's I don't I'm it I and I agree with like I understand. I am the same. I feel like I also write pretty sparse prose at times that I try and I have to make concerted effort. The my current work in progress, I'm making concerted effort to sit in a scene. Don't let it don't keep going. Stop. Slow down, describe things. Let that poetry come out. But it is also I don't this is Robbie stepping on a soapbox. It is I don't know what people mean by that sometimes. By like flowery, like or like, and it's like I think it's a lot of times because when you because I've been I query with books with my different books or I read a lot of books. People say it's like this, it's like that, and then they want this and they want that in an agent or a publisher, and I'm And I like, and I can do consider myself a pretty good mimic. Like if I really want to write something that's similar to this, I could do it. I don't, not necessarily great, but it would sound or seem similar. And I'm like, is that, you would call that poetic like it's like a lot of times I'm like, is that that's poetic prose? I'm like, well, I think it's good prose. Like it's never a question of if it's good or not. It
Yeah,
is always a question to me like, how much is poetry, how much of it is the poetry? Is that poetic prose? Is it just big words that are hard to like sometimes it feels like people just keep it down to that. Is it, oh well, it flows, it has, it's a thing that's not qualifiable necessarily.
I think for me, there's a couple different things that make it. And I'm not using purple prose. Obviously, a lot of people use it in a negative connotation, and I'm not
Yeah,
using
I don't either.
it at all.
I think it's just a different way. It's not the right or wrong way.
Someone who really like Stephen Graham Jones has this like almost musical way of his prose. Like it has this rhythm and it has this. And I don't think I could mimic his way of style of writing. Like I think
I mean that's what makes him very special is that he is so novel, so unique with his voice.
right. So he has this really unique voice and this unique way of writing. Kurt Vonnegut would be another person who I can think of that has this. Like you read it and you're like, that's Kurt Vonnegut. I can tell. If I didn't know, like you just hand me a sheet of paper without his name and his story on it, and I just started reading, I would know it. Same with Stephen Graham Jones or Margaret Atwood would be another someone who. So I think it's just someone who has this kind of like very original way of writing, and I don't find my prose that different from millions of other people. Yeah, I can come up with great sentences and stuff like that, and sometimes I have my moments, but I don't think it's like my super strength. And it's also something I, for a long time, struggled with. I used to be an extremely slow writer when I was trying to do that. When I was trying to be like, okay, I'm going to come up with a
Right.
really cool metaphor for this, or I'm going to come up um, with a really great simile or something, or I'm going to, make this really long winding sentence because that would be cool. And I don't do that anymore. I just try to write to the way the story wants me to write it, a way that the storytelling is going to best fit that scene or that moment. So I just don't think that it's something I think about. I think there are writers out there, and there's writers I've met who really concentrate on the sentence level. That
Yeah.
is where they're fascinated more than even the story level. I think I'm more of a story level person. So I think it's just a different way of writing, but I think that sometimes I find myself struggling. Like I said, sometimes I'm like, God, I've said just like way too many, like, or, God, this description is kind of cheesy or kind of cliche. Like, so it's a lot of stuff that I have to fix in later drafts. I don't worry about it in rough drafts,
I
but
mean, I think that's the,
myself very workmanlike, and it's just something I've tried to improve on over the years. I don't think I'm ever going to be like someone that people are going to be like, he's one of the best prose people ever, and that's fine. I can deal with that.
I mean, I think I am also more critical because I'm also more of a like, I want the story to shine. I want there to be, I don't want it to like, I'm always like, I love good prose, but I'm much more attached to like, I want the prose to serve
Mhm.
a story. I want like, I need a character. I need a plot. I don't like, I'm not in college anymore. I don't want to read, you know, what, Proust. I don't want like that. I don't want just endless meandering. Like I'm fine with it if it serves a purpose. If it is showing me things that like I feel are meaningful to like a moving plot, not just let's write about tea for 2 pages. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Is this
You're not trying to do Finnegan's Wake, basically.
no James Joyce, nothing like or Faulkner even like even though I do like Faulkner's prose more because it seems like it serves at least rot. It feels like a lot of times it is like, here, look at this awfulness, and you're like, I get it, man. Yes, I got it. Just talk about the classics. Bleh.
Yeah,
Uh,
I had to read a lot of them in college. So
yes, exactly. It's that thing. You're like, and I tend to be like, well, I read them. I don't need to read them again. I'm much more interested in new stuff,
me too.
like we were just talking about. What's your question for our next guest?
So my question is, because it's something that I think I always have a hard time, is how do you come up with your characters' names? And I guess it's kind of a two-part question. Do you stick with the names or do you tend to change them as you go until you find something that fits that character? Like, what is the purpose behind the names? Is there a purpose or is it just you randomly snag a name from like a dictionary and stick it on there.
It's a good question. I have a system.
Do you? Well, what's your system? I'm curious now.
Um, I mean, it's kind of a lazy system but it works. I think that's ultimately, I just don't care because it works. And I think there are people, I even have a friend, maybe my best friend. She makes fun of me because a lot of my stories have character names that are like very Tyler, John. Like I have like a Mary. I use names that are very, standard white American people names. But I'm like, in those stories, they're supposed to be kind of normal people. They're not spectacular, strange folk. They've had normal-ish lives. There's a little bit of a cipher. They're a little bit supposed to be a little bit for let the reader insert themselves into a story so they can be like, oh well, Mary's not too different from me, John's not too different from me, like he's just a normal guy. And maybe that's just my white heteronormativity, like filtering into those characters. But if I'm looking for, I oftentimes look at the stories that are inspiring me,
Mm-hmm.
and I look at, well, where did that name come from? Like, is that a German name? Is that white Anglo-Saxon? Is it Czech or Russian? What's the is it oh no, they have roots in the American South. They have roots like where's the legacy of that? Look at other names that are similar and just pick one that looks cool. Like it's really not deep, but it is like it is always. Or like you look at, you mess with translations. You take a word that is the first metaphor I come up with this character. I'm like, oh, this character is dealing with pain, and then I'll type pain into a translator and get like a Albanian word for pain, and then look and then add a vowel, move some things around. Is that a name? Can that be a person's name? Maybe.
Sure, why not?
Yeah, why not? I'm also like much more. I feel like a lot of times I don't shy away from this name is a clear reference. This name is a clear allusion to a thing. I am not like my most recent book. The main character's name is David. He's a pastor. Like, of course, yes, and he references Psalms all the time. So yeah, like yes, I even explicitly say it in the book. Like, so it's like I don't care about that. There are some people who are like don't want to make those connections,
I'm
or
not.
they don't want to bring
I
in
think,
that baggage, I guess.
I think for me, it's part of finding the voices. I need to find the perfect name that fits my character. So I'm really like weirdly, which is why I had that question. I'm really particular about it, and I change names in rough drafts. I have to have people look like make sure I didn't. You'll find like the wrong
Oh yeah, I am guilty of that.
like
Yeah.
times, but it's really I need to find that name for some reason that fits that particular character, so that I can.
I'm that's a good question. It might make the roster. It
Awesome.
might it might make the that's a good question to have in the bag to pull from. We can move on
Okay.
to our final segment. It's time for blood.
Yeah, my favorite section.
I do love it. There's some people when I say that they're like, "What?" I
Yeah,
don't.
maybe I'm masochist in some certain
I
way.
mean, like, I don't know. This I like. It is time for struggle, time for challenges, be it with prose, with publishing, with business, with anything. What comes to mind?
So currently, I'm working on a novel which is out of my comfort zone in a certain sense because it's not really horror. I would consider it more of a thriller slash mystery in a way. It's got some horror elements to it, but being someone who is a pantser, it's very hard right now for me to write a rough draft because I'm trying to keep clues in my head or not trying to go back and put those clues in. So I'm making a like I have this book by me where I have all these
Oh
notes
my
and
god.
I'm just taking as I go along because I'm working on this rough draft, being like, okay, in chapter one, I have to go back and do this, or I didn't
Yeah.
know this character was going to do this. I'm going to have to put this so I can foreshadow that this is this. So it's very different than something I've ever done before, which is exciting. But I literally this last week was like stuck and not knowing how to move forward. And I actually had to have a conversation with a friend like, I've got this situation happening. I don't know how to move forward. I don't know.
How to get out of it.
how to get out of it. Yeah, and I think every writer's had that struggle at some point where you're just like, where do I go from here? What do I do? You know, am I going to be stuck on it? Is this novel going to die here because I don't know how to move forward?
There's always a way out.
There's always a way out eventually,
Yeah.
but it was one of those struggles. I just didn't know where to go, and I have so many clues and different little storylines that are happening, and I'm hoping they're adding up, and I'm trying to keep them all in my head, a little bit. I mean, actually, I have some on the paper, but when I'm thinking about it and I'm not here at my writing desk, like this has to happen and this has to make sense and this kind of not that everything has to have a nicely bow tie on it.
Yeah.
All has to make sense and lead somewhere.
It does. Yeah. It's a mystery. I've written one whodunit, one murder mystery slasher, and I'm never doing it again.
How did you do that? Did you outline a lot of that so you had?
I mean, yes, but it didn't. It ended up being bad. Like I wrote additional 30,000 words
Oh wow,
in the revisions. Like I added, like it takes place over a weekend, like a long weekend, at a horror film convention. Like the celebrity guests are the people who get killed, and
oh,
they.
cool. Yeah.
I mean, Splatterfest. Hey, listen, go out there, go buy Splatterfest. I had a book club event for it recently, and I wrote it 6 years ago now. So I'm like, I don't remember why that I did that. I can guess. Like I know me enough that I don't know why this character I did that. I think I have this in mind. But I added 30. I tell people it's like mechanically, like structurally, was the hardest thing I've ever written. The new one I'm working on now might challenge it, but the murder mystery is like I added in 30,000 words because there's not enough killing. There's not enough deaths in it. Like you have to there's not enough. It's supposed to be kind of fun and campy, like Scream and like metatextual a little bit. So it's like, so I have to add in more. I need more characters. So I added in another day of the event, which means I added in 3 more characters, I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was not. I hate it. Was it's terrible. Like even thinking about it, I'm like, I'm never doing it again. Like Agatha Christie, tenfold more respect
Yeah.
to Agatha Christie because like the fact that she made so prolific with them, and maybe I guess you do them enough times, you know what you can do. But I mind mapped. That's what I suggest to people. Like
Okay.
I use Simple Mind as it's just I think it's free or if it's very low cost app.
Yeah. I'll look at.
But it's like it's like theoretically it is like mimicking the corkboard with lines of yarn like your Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny. Like it's but I'm like I had a
Sounds good.
bunch of moving parts. Like I had so many characters and they are dying in very specific ways and I needed to know well keep track of like how did they die? How do they get there? Who like and it's a murder mystery. So it's like I need red herrings.
Yep.
You need some you can't make it too easy a challenge. You can't give it it's obvious who the killer is, but it can also be impossible. I really whenever I read a book and I get to the end and it's a mystery and I'm like there's no way on earth I could have solved that. Like a part of the fun of reading mysteries is like, oh, can I puzzle it out before the end?
Right.
And if I can't at all, if it's simply not possible, like it comes out of nowhere, I'm like, well, I think the writer failed. I'm like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
So
Exactly.
it's like,
That's where
well,
I'm
I'm
at.
like, so you're connecting. So I took every character, it connected, you have lines between them in the mind map. And then I'm like, well, what's their beef? Right? How do they know each other? And they have to have some sort of problem with each other. It doesn't have to be like they don't have to be a blood feud or anything, but there has to be a reason that you could conceivably see someone maybe they lost their mind and they're killing theoretically if they're a killer killing a dozen different people over a weekend they've lost their mind a little bit so they are just picking at their enemies like oh this guy said he said this thing he blackballed me out of the industry oh he dated my ex-girlfriend oh he like again like and I like it was very like I need a reason why this person doesn't like this person why this person doesn't like that person where we're and like at every kill where are they like again it's like it was a pain it's
I'm gonna
so hard
check that out because that mind map seems like that would be really helpful at least
I mean
in
that's
doing
the only time I've really ever used it because I do write pretty linear
Yeah, so
stories for the most part. I think one other one challenged me a little bit, but I never went back to the mind that. But this is the one time where there's so much information, and I'm like you said, I can mostly keep stuff in my head. I
mhm.
can mostly like, oh yeah, I know I need to go back and add this in. The character had this. I've added this to this character. It's really good, but it needs to be there for the beginning.
Yep.
I can keep that in my head. That's fine, or it'll become evident. This is the one time where I'm like, there's so many characters, and all of them have all these different motivations, and I need their alibis.
Yep, yep. That's what I'm trying to do too. And I'm
Yeah,
seeing all the notes, like where were they here and why, and how could they maybe not be where they said they are and
right.
those types of things. So that's very difficult to kind of keep all of that in your head because you're having to remember where they were at a certain moment chapters ago or
I mean,
what.
yeah, and if you wrote it a month ago, you're already like, well, and like it's like I would love the book to be only thing going on in my life, but it's not. I have
It's
lots.
not, yeah,
I have
yeah,
other things I've got also have to navigate everything. So it's like I needed that, and then like I even went back and looked at it when I did that little book club event because I was like, what did I do? How did I actually arrange for this? I'm like, oh, that's right. I made this like it look. I look crazy. Like again, You feel like Charlie Day. You feel like that. Like oh yeah, this one goes over there, and like you have like you're double checking. Like okay, does it actually make sense? Does it? And like that is again,
yeah.
mysteries are really hard. Like I don't know. People dismiss a lot of times. They're like, oh yeah, mysteries. There's like they're formulaic. I'm like no. I like maybe there is a formula, but it's still a very difficult one. They're
Even if
very
so,
hard
to
to
be
execute.
able to follow that formula and be able to pull it off and pull it off well, I think it's just you have to be really good at plot for one thing, I think, and um, it's just something I really wanted to try it. I was really excited about it. I still really excited about it, but it is like you said, the most difficult thing I think I've
I think it's
so
also
far
like
I've ever done.
I was gonna say the other part of it is like let go of it being like airtight the first time through.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do.
I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, it has to like again, I added a whole 30 I added 30,000 words in the revisions process. So, like I was like and I read it and I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
This is not good enough. It's not. I have to add. I need a whole nother day. That's what I have. And like immediately, it was very apparent. I mean, like I think that's the other. Like if you're really stuck, like I kind of that I remember specifically the first draft. I was just like, well, I need to get this. Needs to get done. I can't just
that's
ponder this forever. You have to finish things. It's like the number one advice for any writer who comes up to me. Like, how do you? I'm like, finish things.
hmm
Don't. It gets hard. I'm like, yeah, it does, but
always was. Yeah,
it always does. Keep going. Finish it. It's gonna look ugly and gross, and it's gonna have gaping holes in it. You'll fix them later. You have to, but that's the other thing. Like, I feel like there is it. I would. I don't know. I need to actually look into that. I wonder if there really is any like scholarship on Agatha Christie's method. Like,
yeah. I want to watch some video. I've been watching videos about it and reading about things people did, and it's helpful to a certain extent, but I think also a lot of them are like, well, we outlined this, and I'm like, I never outlined.
yeah, I mean, it is like there's sometimes when you're speaking different languages effectively, you're like, oh yeah, well, I just plotted it, and you're like, well, I can't,
Right.
literally, I can't do it that way, and I
Or
always
I
like,
try
well,
and it doesn't work. So
yeah, exactly. So it's like, well, I can tell you, I can give you tools. Like here, this is like, and then like a lot of times, I think this is a thing that people don't talk about a lot, as writers, but I find that if I'm given the right tool, it can spark creativity.
yeah,
It can, oh, suddenly I see the problem in a different way. And now I'm like, well, why would these two characters hate each other? And I'm like, wait a minute. There's so many choices. Like, there's so many, like, it's become very clear. I'm like, oh, well, I just needed to see it in front of me in the right way. And suddenly, oh, it's clear. They hated each other because one is jealous of the other. One reached mainstream success, and the other one didn't. And it's like a lot of times it's like, oh, well, and hey, circling back around, I think it comes back to what you said earlier. You find that character,
yeah.
you find who they are. I had it kind of easy even in my case because I based them all on real people.
Oh, yeah,
Like
good for you. That's okay.
I mean, they're not. I use analog names, but
Right.
it's very clear that's Bruce Campbell. That's Jamie Lee Curtis. You know, like it's like I could look at them and go, well, you know, I can make a gag, I can make a joke about Jamie Lee Curtis doing yogurt commercials. Like it's not all of us have yogurt commercial money, Jamie Lee Curtis. So
Oh,
it's like that. I can lean on that a little bit, but I feel like it's if you find the character,
yeah,
they can also still give you that answer of like, what would they do? Why? Well, I don't know how to keep. I don't know how to go. And you could always pull the ripcord and skip the part that you
yeah,
can't write.
yeah,
I empathize. Mysteries are hard. I think
yeah.
that's the mysteries are really hard. And I think mechanically, like there's a lot of people who are like recently we've wandered away from mechanics as trouble. And I do like to come back to them and like, hey, all of us are struggling with something in the story right now. And it's like, how do I get this thing the way I want it?
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. It will. I mean, it's also like, hey, you just go take a walk. And you say, go take a walk and think
Yeah,
about it.
that's
And
it. It's I finally have the solution. It took me having a conversation. It wasn't even like give me an answer to it. It was just like let me talk it out to someone.
sometimes that's all you need. Like, just
Yeah,
say it out loud.
yep,
Yeah.
helped. So
So that's next year. That'll be out, right? That's how publishing works, right?
I hope I have the second novel I'm shopping now. So we'll see.
Oh, okay. Can we? Is there a? Can you give me a teaser? What it's about?
It is a troubled teacher who is struggling to connect with her students and decides to teach them witchcraft.
Ooh, that's fun.
So
That's good.
very different from Portraits of Decay. Tonally, a little bit more fun, a little bit lighter horror.
Yeah.
Where
I mean,
this
that's
one,
good though. I like. I don't know. I like people. I like authors who. I probably because I do the same thing where I'm like my books are. I try and jump around and do different
yeah,
tone and stuff like that. I
that's
can't.
fun. It's fun to expand, and I want I'm always wanting to go in and be like surprised by what the author did by this book. I don't need him to him or her to repeat or they repeat what they've already done.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. And also, like, hey, I'm gonna tell this to all writers who are listening. If you have you're shopping a book, talk about it on social media, put it on podcasts and stuff, because sometimes an editor will hear it and go, it's like, I like that. Can you, hey, send it,
A little
send
something.
it, you send me a little something about that? So, hey, that's just in general. Like, hey, put it out there. Don't be timid about it.
Even
Um,
if you're shopping short stories, like you can put it as a little, I am currently working on blah 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 blah.
exactly. Exactly. No, I mean, it's always, I think like as writers, we tend to be very quiet and insular and like not want to
We're
talk.
we're paranoid. Someone's gonna steal.
I again, it comes back around. I mean, literally to Gemma and like ideas. I'm like, I have this idea. I'm like, ideas are worthless
Mhm.
or almost worthless. Like I have stacks. I literally am staring at a stack of cards in front of me. All of my ideas. I'm like, I don't have time in my life to write them all. It's not about the idea. It's about the execution. It's about the work.
Yeah,
About
yeah.
the work.
I can be that guy who goes up to somebody and is like, "I got an idea for you." That you
I usually be. I'm usually like very nice and be like, "Oh, that's great.
yeah,
That's really wonderful. Yeah, I'm like I'm working on this thing right now. Let's see what I feel like after that." But I'm like
I'll
I
even
got
sometimes scribble it down a little bit.
I'm not gonna. I'm like I'm sorry, man. I since the last idea, I've gotten 3 new ideas that I also like theoretically could work on something. Like I don't have
Yeah.
time.
I'm never
It
gonna
take,
finish everything that's in my head. I know that. I mean, unless I live to like 200, and
I
then
mean, I
I
don't plan on
so
I don't plan on dying. So I might get everything out. I
if
might
you
eventually.
find a way to do that, then let me know. If you know a vampire or you
I think I'm planning on Spite carrying me
spot.
just forever. I've all like I
You could
can place it. I can place that chip on my shoulder that will just drive me. I can't die yet. I haven't
haven't
this.
done this
I
yet.
haven't done this
I haven't
yet. I
succeeded
need
in
to.
this yet. Yeah.
This book isn't out yet. I need to finish it. I can't.
Can't let someone else write it.
I
Go.
mean, I am absolutely not going to be the Terry Pratchett where I'm like burn everything in my drawer. No, 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 no. Ever my closest writer friend, take it out and fix it and put our names on it. I want as many things out on my name as possible before I die.
Yeah.
Way after I die, posthumously.
Right.
We are going very long. I'm a
That's
yapper.
fine. We're having a good time though. We're having
No,
a good
exactly. Yeah, I'm a yapper. I mean, I did start a podcast. Um, first of all, before we go, where can they find you, and where can they buy Portraits of Decay?
They can buy Portraits Decay from ruidonbooks.com. They can buy it from Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and in selective bookstores around the United States. So you can check. And if they don't have it in your bookstore, ask for it. Ruidon would love for you to tell them
Yeah.
to buy it. So, but yeah, currently, if you're, I'm trying not to support Amazon too much, but if you need to buy my book from Amazon, I'm not gonna complain. It's there. So, and you can buy it also an audio. The audio book is awesome because it has three different
Oh,
voice actors doing
cast.
all three
Yeah,
characters.
that's
So,
awesome.
if you're an audiobook fan or just want to read the book and listen to it at the same time, yeah, it's very well done. I was very very happy with the audio version. So.
Where can they find you on social media?
You can find me everywhere on social media: Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram. You can just go to my link tree. I also have my own website, jrblanes.com, which I do post things on here. I'll probably post The Blood on the Typewriter once it is out. And so I post videos, I post any news that comes up. I try to blog as much as possible, but like most writers on this show, we're all really terrible at that. So,
Yeah, I was talking about that yesterday. I'm like, my website is outdated. I need to fix it. I
yeah.
still live in Texas, according to my website. Not true.
Thank
Yeah, it is. That was years ago. Thank you so much for
you so
joining
much.
me.
I really love this.